Okay, let's do this. Good evening. This is Bob Gums coming to you from Uganda, Kampala, Uganda. And I want to say good evening, number one. Number two, if you'd be so kind as to subscribe to what we're trying to do here, and also leave your opinion on what we've spoken about this evening. I want to know how you folks out there feel on both sides of the Atlantic. All right, let's chit chat. Um, But let me say this. Let me get this off my damn chest. I don't give a crap if anybody thinks it's irrelevant to the conversation. I really don't care. But I think it needs to be said. I am at a mystery. Maybe I am super naive. Um, I went to school for a bit. I don't think I'm that ignorant, but perhaps I am. But I don't understand how in the hell that we as the American people allow this guy, Donald Trump, to put us in the situation that we are now facing. I just don't get it. Maybe it's a racial thing, okay? Yeah, I guess on top of that, I'm a native New York. I'm born and raised in New York, okay? I've been watching Trump and his antics ever since I became of age. I saw Rosie O'Donnell. She was doing an interview with somebody, and she made the point that people from New York know this guy, and we try to warn the rest of the country, and nobody listened. And I don't understand how in the hell a farmer from the so-called heartland or somebody from Alabama, I don't understand your abiding love for this guy because he doesn't give a shit about you. Okay? He don't give a shit any more about you than he does about me. That is not how this guy rolls. And he has never rolled that way. Okay? And I just have to say this to clear the decks, as we say in the Navy, because to me, it's just what I've seen. I'm over 60, okay? And the 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 changes, the calamities that have been brought to the United States ever since you put this guy in the White House the first time. And what's so sad, you did it again for a second time. And now you have all these polls. Americans are going hungry, right? We're coming up on Thanksgiving in a couple of days, and then after that, Christmas. And people are terrified because they can't afford the usual holiday spread and buying gifts and what have you. And the job market, well, unemployment is creeping up inch by inch. And healthcare, you know I just don't understand it. Maybe I'm dense. Maybe I've read too many history books, but I don't understand a working person voting Republican. And I'm just trying to figure out, are we as Americans suckers? Who was it? Was it Mencken who said nobody goes broke underestimating the intelligence of the American public? I don't want to believe that. I truly don't. I'm part of the American public. But goddamn, it just seems that, all the Republicans have to do is come out and shake their boogeyman about cultural wars. And it's like LBJ said, Lyndon Baines Johnson said, right? You tell a poor working class white guy that he is better than black folks or black or Indian American or indigenous American or Latino American, and you have him at your beck and call. And I'm like, yo, this is like the 21st century, man. And people are still falling for this bullshit, this divide and conquer bullshit. I just, I find it amazing. I truly do. And what's happening, the rest of the world is moving on. And what I really fear, and I live overseas now. I've been over here um, since June. I even got married over here. Yeah, and I can tell you, people in the rest of the world, they think America's gone totally, absolutely freaking, and I can see why. When you look at the things that are happening, right? We have this semi-military force under the command of Trump marching through our cities, uh, beating undocumented people in the head and beating American citizens on the head and throwing them in the back of vans and taking them to concentration camps. And yes, Virginia, they are concentration camps. And I'm like, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? You take $40 billion to send to Argentina because our wannabe dictator loves their dictator. So you say, well, we're going to screw American farmers and ranchers to send them money to help them be able to sell to the people that we can't sell to. Like the soybean thing, right? You know what Argentina's done? They're selling their soybeans to China. And our farmers of soybeans are going, and I'm like, this is like insane, man. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the posh velvet tones of a Harvard graduate, okay? But I can freaking read and I can see what the hell's going on. And I don't understand. Is there so much hate in this country? So many MAGAs and groypers and fascists running around that people are willing to sacrifice their own quality of life and family well-being to, run around being mad at the other. Listen, man, illegal immigration is not our problem in the United States. Believe me, it ain't. Okay. And I hope that people are finally starting to realize that. Now, I was listening to a conversation, and these folks were talking about how do they put it down? Entirely materialistic conception of our politics. And one guy said, well, that's not the whole story. And I agree with him. I truly do. Because a lot of this, I think what happened with Kamala, could she have run a better campaign? Yeah, well, when you sit down and you look over your past, there's always things that you could have done better. But this nonsense about, oh, well, she wasn't clear enough on her policies, and all this other BS. And that just ain't true. Trump goes up there, and all he does, he talks a lot of gobbledygook and mishmash. But just enough people voted for him. Remember, he didn't have no freaking landslide. No matter how much he tries to say that bullshit, he did not have that. But enough of you folks in the Latino community, in the rural white community, and I'm ashamed to say even some in the black community, because unfortunately you have a lot of younger, uneducated black men in America that actually fell for that Trump garbage, and it's a crime. I think a lot of us, as black parents, we fell down on the job because apparently we didn't do a good job of educating our sons and some, I'm happy to say, some, a small percentage of our of our daughters, right, into what the hell's been happening in this country for the last 300, 400 years, you know, and it really is. And I don't know if people are going to wake up in time. I truly don't. Now, we have this thing down in America where the left, somehow we're supposed to be the elite professional class. Well, I will say this. Um, Generally speaking, people that read more usually wind up voting Democratic. There's no two ways about that. But I don't blame the people on the other side. You have to remember that in America, there has been a huge disinformation campaign that has been run for like what, the last 200, 300 years. And I don't hate people who vote Republican. I don't even hate people who call themselves MAGA. But I just feel sad as an American that you have people who are so intellectually and in terms of knowing what the hell goes on in the world, who really don't know. I think in America we have the highest percentage of people out of any Western nation who've never been a goddamn place. And I think that's also a huge problem that we have in our society. We are more, how would I put this? We're more backwards now to a large extent than we were back in the 60s. Seriously. In terms of education, in terms of policy. And I think that a lot of that, um, it's not accidental. Okay. It's not accidental. I think that since the mid 70s, you had a steady uh, machine or corporate, how should I say, you had a certain group of people in our society that have worked to dumb down the American public. And that's how come we don't have we're the only Western country that doesn't have a decent social welfare net. I think that's because for the longest time, uh, what the Republican Party turned into, they knew all they had to do was come out there and throw out culture war, right? And call them socialists. And that would just, that would shut down any intelligent argument. Yet you look at NATO, supposed to be our allies, all those countries, they're either socialists or they have a very strong uh, democratic socialist movement. But you look here in the United States, look how they pillared and attacked Mandami, right? And I'm trying to, I just wonder, I just pray, when are the American people going to finally wake the hell up? Because when I look at America, I see the same, how should I say, the old colonial game, right? The colonialists went into Latin America, they went into Africa, they went into India, they tried to do it in China, divide and conquer. And that's the problem. That's the problem that you have here in America. It's not about Republican. It's not about Democrat. It's not about left or right. It's about divide and conquer. So, in order to do divide and conquer, you have to pull out the culture war thing. Hey, well, that person over there is different from you. So you have to see them as a threat to your well-being. And it just ain't true, and quite frankly. It's just like the black and the red ants in the big jar. Somebody shakes the jar, and the two ants, they start, turning at each other. And that's what you have here in America. That's what Donald Trump was all about. And let's face it, Donald Trump is a symptom of what is poisoning American society. And now we're in the position, the history is in the position where, as you saw at the G20 conference in Johannesburg, South Africa, the world is coming together. And what they're saying after experiencing Donald Trump's crazy antics, they're saying, look, America, we're trying to make a more peaceful, multilateral world, okay? With trade, um, intellectual, scientific, um, going back and forth. And, you're welcome to be a part of that. But hey, what did Trump do? Trump said, well, look, I ain't going because of some bullshit lie that he himself has ginned up about genocide in South Africa against Afrikaners, which ain't true. Okay. I live in Uganda, which is kind of like central southern Africa. Trust me, if there was some kind of, whole genocide against Afrikaners, we would know about it. Okay. Anytime you have a genocide, you got people trying to climb the walls to the next, surrounding countries to get the hell out of there. Just like Jewish people did back in the, 30s and early 40s, right? Because they were being victims of genocide. That's not happening over here. I think you do have a lot of Afrikaners, not a lot, but you do have some Afrikaners that they just don't like the fact that they don't have apartheid anymore. But that ain't genocide, okay? Sorry, Donald, that's not genocide. And see, this is what I mean about the United States. The world looks at us and they see us, what do they see us doing? Beating brown people into the pavement, calling them illegals. There's no such thing as an illegal human being. A person can be undocumented, but that don't make them illegal, number one. Number two, in the United States, being undocumented is not a felony. It's a civil issue. It's not a felony. Now, if you're talking about people who are not citizens and who have, arrived here and they're involved in human trafficking, drugs, what have you, yeah, nobody's complaining about those people being taken away. But most of the people who are being harassed and beaten by ICE, they're regular people. They're just trying to make it. Them and the other people who are being beaten and harassed by ICE are citizens. And the world sees that. And then they see our president, who was intent upon going into South America and overthrowing the government with this excuse about some kind of, drug ring. Listen, drugs are all over the world. Okay. Um, as an American, let me ask you: do you think that it's worth your son or daughter coming back in a body bag? It's just that it's just that simple. Okay. I'm sorry. The illicit drug traffic coming out of South America is not worth going to war. It's not worth killing innocent people. And the world sees America doing that, right? And then, to me, this is like freaky, man. He's talking about, I'm going to attack Nigeria for what they're doing to Christians. And I'm like, well, the situation in Nigeria is extremely complex. Right? You have Boko Haram there, which apparently is the main perpetrator of violence and what have you. And they seem to want to kill everybody, Muslims, Christians and Muslims. It's a bad situation. And see, Americans need to maybe crack some history books and understand the danger, the damage, and the harm that Western colonialism did, not just to Latin America, but also to Africa and India. See? So Africa now is dealing with a lot of problems, latent problems from over the last 200 years or so. And easy. I live over here on the African continent, and I tell you, it's not easy. But I believe, just like North America, the folks here will eventually work it out. But the idea that, you're going to, send Marines into Nigeria, um, I think that's rash, stupid, and hypocritical. Now, knowing Donald as I do, I'm quite sure he has ulterior motives. But the American people have going to, you're going to really have to ask yourself a question. Do you want to deal with that? Seriously. I think, my personal opinion, I think that the African nations need to clean up their issues, right? When black people were being killed and bombed and, shot and everything for trying to seek the right to vote, nobody, nobody came to the United States saying, hey, you need to stop mistreating black Americans. Nobody did that. Uh, we had to, you know, I mean, we had some help here, but generally we had to shoulder that baggage on our own shoulders. See, and also remember, America refuses to sign on to the International Court of Justice. So keep that in mind also. This whole Christian thing that because that's a big thing with the Trump administration. They are supposedly a bunch of white Christian nationalists. Their Secretary of Defense is some kind of ethno xenophobic Christian American Nazi. He's got the tattoos to prove it. And I'm sorry, as a black man who knows the history, I really have some serious problems um, with this type of administration, American administration, trying to attack Nigeria, regardless of their excuses. And you got to remember something else too. You're dealing with a lot of ignorance. People running around like, oh well, white Christian America. Do they realize that Christianity is not a European thing? Okay, Christianity was in Africa and Ethiopia hundreds of years before it caught on in Western Europe. But again, that's that whole um, keeping people ignorant thing. See, so I just don't. I don't. I just don't see Trump as being the ambassador to the world, as the American crusader for truth, justice, and Christianity. Remember, this is the guy that he's gone to the White House and the Pentagon, and every symbol of black achievement, especially black military achievement, he's tried to erase it. So I'll be frank about it. As a black American, this ain't the administration that I want to see prancing through the African continent in any shape, form, or fashion. Now, it doesn't make me an American. It does make me someone that is woke and that is aware. Right? And I would suggest to my American brothers and sisters, if you want to keep your democracy, I suggest that you get woke pretty damn quick. Otherwise, what's left of our democracy, you ain't going to have it. And one other point I wanted to make before I wrap it up. Now, I mentioned that G20 had their meeting in South Africa, right? And that Trump refused to go. And you know what? That conference went as smooth as glass without Trump's presence, without his whining and bitching, right? Without his little circus act. Every place he goes, he has to perform, right? Well, they didn't have any of that at the G20, excuse me, the G19 conference. And I think that's a good thing. I think the head of Canada, Carney, I think he had some very interesting things to say. I think very productive. And I think that at this point in our history, we have to bear in mind that, as Carney said, the world is ready to move forward, okay, with or without the United States. And the center, see, that's something else that Americans need to realize. The center of gravity for the global economy is shifting. AI, energy, trade, what is moving forward? And you got to remember something, three-fourths of the world population were represented at Johannesburg, okay? Two-thirds of the GDP on the planet was represented at Johannesburg. And I guess the bottom line for Americans is this: the world has no place for ICE, MAGA, the what do you call them, groypers or whatever. The thing is that global cooperation doesn't stop because the U.S. wants to stay behind its wall of Trump. The future's begun. And I think the U.S., you can be a part of it, we can be a part of it, or we can stay home and behind our little hate walls and let the world pass us by. It's just that simple. Trump attempted to wage a trade war on the world, and the world seems to have handled it quite well. You can be part of the world, or you can stay in your corner. But that's up to the American people at this next election. But you got to read, people. You got to know what the hell's going on. And a tip: stay away from Fox. Okay, but Fox exists not to educate you, but to indoctrinate you. And for what America has to face in the rest of the 21st century, it ain't helpful. It really isn't. Listen, I'm going to pack in a little early this evening. I thank you for taking the time to hear me out. Be back next time. And this is Bob Gump, Concerned Forum, here in Kampala, Uganda. Take care. Be at peace. Love each other. Stay woke. And may the Creator bless you. Take care.